remember for me, I want to ask you how and when and what was the trigger for you that you knew, like your aha moment, like, oh yeah, I know everything is just perfect for me. Or is there even such a moment? Just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
before, because you mentioned goals, we have even in, let's say, everybody's daily life, they go to work, most of us, and they have certain goals and sense of control that can be things like, oh, I need to manage a team. I have, certain achievements I need to do. There is tension sometimes depending on your level of a professional level. Is there a way to combine, not having all those targets that you need to hit for your company and, that sense to be in control of what you're doing while at the same time practicing to just step back and just let it happen at it as it should? Like, is there a way to, I'll just say to combine both, but you can reframe it however you can.
Mhm.
Um, if you can just tell me if there is a way, while most people still are experiencing a sense of control to a certain degree, leave, having to go to work because they need an income or whatever scenario it is, mostly those days, can they still manage to know that whatever goals they have, it will happen perfectly when it should happen?
Yeah. So
Hopefully,
we
I
if we
answered.
if we come back to again the knowing that you are the creator, you are the power, and you have ultimate will and control over anything that you wish to manifest or intend, that this is all just energy. So the fact that we have to still work, for instance, is a good one to use because if we're living in a system where we use money, then we need that to ultimately live and survive and protect our environment that we need around us in wherever we live. So you going to work can happen in two ways. Again, we can suffer. I wish I didn't have to work. I've got to get up every day and get ready at a certain time, and then I've got to go and do this and that. And we can suffer is a choice. That is a choice because we're choosing to say these things. We're saying not working. I'm not saying working is a choice. I'm saying how we perceive work is a choice. Okay, so you may not have a choice whether to work or not and where you're working at the moment. Let's take that out, completely take that out of the context of what we're speaking and say the choice is we can suffer with the thoughts about that work, or every time one of those thoughts come up, we can just bring our attention away from that. So the thought of, right, I've got to get up early tomorrow, and you don't want to. You've put a label on that. You don't want to get up, but you have to. Instead of feeling like that and having all of those emotional contexts happening and those attachments happening, we can decide in that moment, as soon as the thought comes of that, we can say, instead of it being a negative, we can say, I'm happy that I get to wake up every rising and feel that I am able to get my physical body up and go to work and have a car to drive in and have the experience to meet many different beings, to enjoy conversations, to speak, to be authentic. Gratitude in your heart for what you can do. Like you've just said to me, you're practicing the things that you can do and not what you can't or don't like. It's a perception. Remember what we spoke about with perception is either your power or your prison. Are we going to put ourselves in that prison cell of, I don't like this, this is not good, I wish it was different? Or are we going to have gratitude and bring our powerful energy to that experience? Every time we practice so much initially, you'll be exhausted by the end of the day because you'll be seeing all of this, what's happening. It goes unseen in a lot of beings. It really does. It just happens, the chatter. Once you start to notice it and start working on small steps to build a different perception of what the ego's taken on, everything seems amazing. It's like, yes, I get to wake up today and go to work. Say it out loud. I'm grateful that I've got work to go to, and I'm grateful that I can get up at this time and go there and experience that. Even if you're not, it changes your whole energy field and it brings experiences to you that are joyous. You'll go into work and everyone will be happy because they bask in the energy that you're projecting. And then you get a phone call from the boss and he says, you don't need to do this anymore. I'm going to give you a promotion. I'm going to give you more. And all of this energy comes into play when you change those simple, small programs that give you a negative journey that also come into play when you need growth. If you keep doing the same thing, nothing will change. You know the saying, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to do the same thing will keep happening.
Yeah,
What have you?
sorry.
There's nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose.
I'm very much into that these days. Hopefully, it's not just a trend of the moment, but some sort of aha moment. And I want to hear your aha moment
Mm.
before we move on to the discussion. But it was in the video I heard, and it was, and I don't know if it's going to come out very well, but it's if I want to expect or if I want a different outcome, I cannot be doing the same things that I have been doing because waking up at this time, then okay, having the coffee and having this, and then going to work, coming back, or going to and repeating those things, just with slight differences, obviously, throughout the day, but they're more or less always the same. And that would lead you to the same outcome. But if you want something different, then you cannot be repeating the same things. I guess it's breaking, interrupting that cycle. It's just a personal thing. I really resonated with that, and it was just like, yeah, if I want something different, and for me, it's mostly emotions. It's not just making my coffee, not making my coffee. It's really my emotion, like how I react to things.
Mm.
Really tuning into it. And when somebody tells me, no, what was the last, gosh, it was my mom. She triggered me recently, and right there, instead of just like getting back with something, I just stand there and just not reacted. Basically, I couldn't even say anything good, but at least I didn't react it.
Okay, so in that very moment, this is your opportunity now, okay? Not your mum's, nothing to do with your mum, because she is there for a divine reason for your growth. Nothing to do with her energy. We're just looking at you, yeah? So in that moment, you've made a decision not to react.
Mhm.
But in the mind, what's the mind saying? Because this is the most important part, is not the physical reaction. Once you've moved past that, it's not about how you react outwardly, because you've already kind of overcome that because you know now if you just explode like you used to, then it's just an energy exchange of like aggression, and you don't want that. So you've learned now, so you've elevated past the physical aspect. Now we're looking, like we did with the food, the physical. Now we're looking at what happens in the mind. So can you remember what you were thinking about your mother at that specific time? Were you having negative thoughts like she shouldn't be saying this, and
Yeah,
why
I
is
was
she
just,
still?
I meant to say, I really wanted to say, do you realize how what you're saying is really not nice? Just that. Like,
Okay.
do you realize how, it's kind of a, like, I don't know if she does that consciously or unconsciously, but the conversation goes well, all of a sudden, and you're like,
Mhm.
and I'm like,
Okay. So it's taken you off of balance for something that someone else has done. Someone has got control over you, and you've given your power to that being. So what we need to look at is your mother is your teacher. Okay, not because she's your mother, but anything that triggers you is your teacher. Now we have to hold our teacher in the highest gratitude because they are giving us the most growth.
yes,
So, the fact that you might not like what she's saying or agree with what she's saying is your issue, not hers.
yes,
Okay, and I'll bring it back to my experience in a minute, and I'll tell you how I overcome this aspect of my experience. So ultimately, you're saying she shouldn't say that because, you know, I feel like it's rude, or I feel like, you know, she should be saying it differently, or you have ultimately a victim mentality that you're being treated in an inappropriate way. Now, your mother has her own will, how she wants to be, how she would like to talk. No amount of you telling her that she shouldn't talk like that is going to help the situation. And yet you're still suffering because your power is given to your mother at that instant because you're externalizing your power and letting her have control over your thoughts. In that, the way to help that and to get over that is that as soon as you think that, you need to expose it. You need to know that this is not you, your being, because you love your mother.
yeah. I mean, in that moment, I was pretty, let's say, proud of myself because I
Yeah.
didn't escalate. I tend to escalate situations really hard because I cannot really handle conflict very well. I want to make the situation right in the
Yeah.
moment. But
Yeah.
every
But
time
you,
it happens, it tends to escalate and that doesn't solve it.
yeah.
But in that moment, I had the thought, I wanted to
Hmm.
tell her, do you realize how rude this is the way you're telling
Yeah.
me now? But I didn't say anything.
Right. So your growth has come from you used to react with an outwardly spoken force, like pushed back to her, and then it would end in an uncomfortable situation. So you don't do that anymore. But this is not where your growth lies because you've already mastered that. You know, you can have some element of, I mean, this is another thing where pride comes in. You're not the victim. Okay, nothing anyone can say should be able to take us off of balance if we're always in that space. Like the music thing that I said, an external force will come in, and it's up to you how you respond to that. But you're reacting in not a physical way anymore, a mental way where you're still having thoughts. I want to say that, but I'm not going to because I know how it ends. And you're still letting the thoughts manifest. in the energetic field. So, what we now need to look at as part of your progression here is that when that thought happens, what do we do? Do we continue suffering in thought? Or do we bring our attention to the moment? Look at your mum. I love my mum. I love you, mum. I love you so much. I'm so happy and grateful that we get to communicate like this every day or every week. I'm just grateful for you. And she cannot bring force back every time you say these things because it just doesn't work. Force with love always wins. And this is all I did. In my experience, I had the similar aspect here with other relationships in my life. And the moment I stopped, I did like you, I didn't do the verbalization, so the physical aspect, that stopped first because I realized I don't want to keep going into these patterns. So you stop yourself, you hold your tongue, no matter how much you want to say something, you hold it, and then the thoughts happen and you're in thought and you're like, oh, she shouldn't be saying this. I just have to be quiet and look around. What can I do to get to not listen to it? And you're trying to escape that because you can't say it and outburst like you used to. So that part is under control. And now we need to look at the hidden aspect. And this is what we've done today is that as soon as those thoughts come up and they arise, attention to gratitude or to the moment or to anything that makes that attention feel like you're there with your mother. Thanks, Mum. Thanks for being here with me today. And like, I really appreciate your time and energy and love that you give me. And when you bring your gratitude from your heart, it diminishes straight away any negative thought that you have about her and what she should be saying. Because her will in that moment, you're not going to change it. She says what she says, she does what she does, and it is what it is. But you can decide how you're going to suffer or be at peace and balance. And this is all that the body is designed for is balance in every aspect. Like from the start, when we spoke about every system is there in your corner, really loving that balance state, that homeostasis. And then something happens, oh, another trigger. And then we're off again for an hour in thought. But you've got the power to decide where you want to be. And if you want to make those changes, if you're happy in the way that you are, great. Go and be happy in suffering if that's what makes you happy. Like we said before, some beings are happy in that. And I'm happy for them to be there. But if you would like to change and you would like to see results within the suffering and not have suffering anymore, be it physical, mental, emotional, energetic, anyway, then we have to put in some practices to get from suffering, making the changes, the small practices to where we ultimately want to be.
Yeah, so I guess I see it as a two-step, or at least for me, you go from not reacting first, and then your reaction is a kindness or a gratitude reaction. What you were saying reminded me of the saying, kill with kindness. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Killing with kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think yeah, with love you kind of disarm the
Yeah.
person in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just like you asked me to touch on my experience with it. And
Yeah, please.
do you know how I ultimately come to the decision of not suffering anymore in any aspect is that I knew the knowing that that's ultimately what I would like to achieve is that I'm going to enjoy the journey to get there. So in suffering, I found that when I embraced that as my teacher and I saw that it wasn't me, the victim, that it was me learning, because now, even if I don't win and I still have a thought that comes up and I go with the thought, because I'm not perfect. I have those moments where I slip out of that, and then what happens is straight away the trigger is no longer a negative autopilot trigger, it's a positive. So as soon as that happens within my thoughts, I have rewired that program to be a positive one instead of a negative. So instantly, as soon as I have something that triggers an emotion or a set a standard thought that I might have had before, what happens is, oh, this is a chance for me now to learn and grow from this situation instead of being in suffering and pain. So I embrace that and I'm like, let's go. I'm excited for the trigger that's just happened because I know the feeling I get from the growth of that is so outweighing the comfortable area that I might want to stay in so that I don't feel that trigger. So it's releasing in me an element of joy that I get to feel the triggers now because I love growing from it. Whereas before I'd run and hide or stand and fight on my fight or flight. And I'd get all kinds of emotions. My heart rate would increase. I'd go red in the face. I'd get anxious. My mouth would shake. Um, I would have like either a sick feeling with the anxiety that I either had to say something or run away. And it was just an awful place to be. And yet now it's so balanced and a beautiful place to be that I don't want to experience that world of illusion and pain and suffering. But I'm not here saying that everyone should take that same journey. It's just like if you would like to be free from that chaos of the mind, we need to take a step towards embracing the difficult times and change that program to be able to help us in our favor. And this comes in the form of self love.
Hmm.
And we hear that a lot on the internet.
Very
Oh,
true.
self love and self care, and no one, you know, it's a very individual journey. So throwing that out there, oh yeah, I do self love and I do. It's about tackling the things that are difficult for you, but putting a spin on it that it's joyous and it's fun to do because it will propel you that much further within your journey. And all I can say is the only way you experience that is in the present moment. And when you're on the phone call with your mother or whoever, whatever other situation causes you a slight bit of suffering, if you continue to be in your mind, these tests or these challenges or this energy will constantly come up for you. Your mother will always do that until you make the change that
Thank you,
you would
Diane.
like to.
Yeah, I get it. I think it makes a lot of sense. It is definitely a practice. I mean, I think we've said that
Sure.
enough. And with what you said, again, this is how it was for you to see that all your daily challenges, you wanted to see them as opportunity for growth. But I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think it's
For sure. It's a very logical part of the mind that will know that this is correct and feel that. But putting it into practice is a whole other thing. Is our logo on our community is truth with application. So if you know the truth, you have to apply it, otherwise you create suffering. So what you know to be right and true for your experience, you just need to put that into practice and into place and apply it. And then things will start happening and unfolding, and then new opportunities will open for growth. So one more going back to that question that you asked me with regards to triggers. As soon as I realized that this is my opportunity for growth and I can embrace that, that flipped my whole world. Just knowing, knowing that they're not believing again, like we said, not other people's experience, but putting into practice my own experiences, like with what you can do with your mother. Next time you are on the phone to her, you can practice gratitude and you can practice love instead of living in suffering and fear. She might say that again, and the anxiety that might come around that is that putting those changes in place when you know that to be part of what you would like to experience will bring her energy in line with that, and it will create balance across the whole field that you're experiencing. And it's the same with work. You know, like you said, people might not like going to their work. Okay, if they're suffering with that, then they just have to keep suffering because they're not making a change with the perception that they're putting out there, and the energy that they're putting out is not one that they want to receive back.
Or if
It takes a simple change.
they're even aware, because you really have to have the, I think, awareness factor in there, because
For sure.
I think so many people will live their life just the way it has been done and it will be done, and it just will. And suffering or not, they might not even ask themselves the question, am I suffering? They might just say, yeah, I'm
But
not.
then,
But
but
that's
that's their journey.
right,
And
right,
their
right.
journey and their journey is so unique to them. And who are we to say you should practice gratitude? You should, you know, it's not about that. If a being is happy and suffering, then they're happy with that. And as long as they want to be there, they might complain every day, oh, the weather, oh, my back is hurting, or but they don't want to do anything about it because they're happy where they are, and that's absolutely fine. And no amount of force will make them change. If they want change and they seek change and they would like to put in practice, then absolutely it's attainable.
And what kind of advice would you have that somebody starts the journey and big, let's say beginner, really new to most of the concepts of freedom of the mind, just getting on a healthy diet, and then comes, the family, and then comes the friends and the circles of habits and things that are kind of pulling you back from from that place that you want to go, things that I think sometimes because you want to be with your friends or because you want to be with your family, you will kind of fall back into that, like, let's say lower as I don't want to say lower aspect of life, but some things that you do not want to cultivate anymore in your life. But they feel like they're drawing you back. Is there an advice? I know we talked about the practice, obviously, and you have to do that no matter what. But if somebody is starting the journey and they feel like, their circle is pulling them back, what would you tell them?
It comes back. I know we always say this on all the videos we've done, but it's exactly the same principle as that is perfect for them at that time because it's a teaching. So they are being drawn into a teaching. Are you going to make the same choices or are you going to change? And unless you make a change, nothing else will change. It will just repeat, repeat. Everything's on repeat until you break the cycle. Like you've just said, the cycle of the it's not to say that you can't enjoy time with your friends or family. And this is what I thought initially when taking the journey with food. My family are big on having food together as part of a celebration. And I love
Yeah, me
that.
too.
And,
Yeah.
and initially I stepped away from that because I felt uncomfortable with number one, sharing that experience when I knew they ate differently from me. And growing up, we were always all the same. We had the same food and the same values. And then all of a sudden, I took a different route and felt I judged the situation. So my judgment on the situation was like, I don't feel comfortable, so I'm going to take myself away and not do that anymore. And yet that was a teaching in itself because I missed out on a lot of family time, a lot of time where I could be with that energy because I made a judgment and an expectation of a certain event. So now the difference is I go to every event. I take every opportunity to eat with them and be social with them in what they enjoy as well as me. However, I always keep to my truths. So they eat a certain way, and I eat a certain way, and we come together and we eat together. But I wouldn't ever go to eat what they eat because I know that I wouldn't be feeling as good as I feel if I did that because I'm going against my truths. So I have a truth of how I feel good when I eat a certain way. If I then do what others expect me to do because I can't communicate authentically, I then I'm not in line with my ultimate truth. So I suffer physically, mentally, emotionally. Either one of those, I know that I'm not in that suffering state anymore because I do not conform to what others expect me to do. That's on them, and my expectations and my judgments are on me. So I've released all of those expectations and judgments of certain situations, and I just do what I feel in that moment is right. And I never think about if I would have done this or I should have done that, because all of the shoulda, woulda, coulda are always to suffer, and if we are in that state of I should do this, I could do this, I would have done that, not this, is always an aspect of suffering because we're thinking that we should be a certain way to live up to others' expectations of us.
Mm. I suppose we have to go through a few lessons.
Of course, they're
Teaching.
divine teachings, yeah.
Yeah.
And like we've just said, it's amazing to get those teachings because we have the opportunity to grow from them, and it feels so good when you're authentic. And you say to like your parents, for instance, if they have a get together and it's about food, oh, I'm so excited to be with you all. Like I'm just really happy to have that time with you to share with you. I'm going to bring my own food and then we'll all get together and we'll have a wonderful time. No suffering from you. You're still going, you're participating in the family get together. You're excited, they're excited. Your truth is eating your own food because you know how it makes you feel. There's no hidden agenda. There's no, oh, what if they think this of me? Or because that's just suffering again. You've got an ultimate opportunity there to stand up and be authentic, to communicate properly with them so that they know you're bringing your own food. It's not just an awkward moment where you turn up with a suitcase full of. This is what we do whenever we travel. We've got all of our food with us, but everyone, we have a laugh about it. It's fun. It's an enjoyment to be around others that can have joy with that as well. Just bring that authenticity and address the elephant in the room because that's the fun about it. Because others try and hide things when they're not sure about things, when they're uncomfortable about things, and just say, yeah, I brought my normal suitcase of food and we're all going to enjoy some time together and bring an element of joy with it. And then that really does diffuse any situations that feel a little bit heightened with the energy.
All right. So let's be open to the teachings
Embrace.
in our day, in our life. And so I wanted to mention that I won't expand too much on it because I know we're getting to an end here, but it's funny, like every day I'll share it with you and I guess the audience. Every day I was like, oh, I'm going to get a surprise from whomever's out there today for my growth or for the things I was uh hoping for, but not attached to it. And
Mhm.
it comes, it's funny, it comes in the funniest way sometimes. I won't get too much into it, but obviously I'm not perfect and I do some practicing and I'm like a practicing happiness. Like I just as far as feeling the emotion, like I was saying in the beginning, like just feeling them, not contracting emotions, but more like expanding. And I really try to feel those like throughout the day. And then I'm going to say with my husband, Trevor, like, oh, I want to watch a thriller. And then we watched the thriller, and at the end, I realized, ah, how am I feeling right now? Like, and I get just annoyed because Trevor, I'm spending all day, all week trying to practice a good emotion. And now we watch a movie, and I end up just feeling weird and just strange. And we're going to bed. I'm like, Trevor, we should not be watching this kind of movies like that. Like I'm practicing this and I go watch one movie and it's just all and I kind of like, Trevor, I'm sorry, thank you for selecting the movie. I'm so yes, thank you. It was a great movie, but I just don't feel like feeling that way at the end of the day. It's a great thing. So okay, no more thrillers. But that was just the little thing like, how am I going to respond to that? There's the frustration. Then I see the frustration, and you kind of get hung up in there until you, okay, let's cool this up and then just reroute. Anyway, that was a little side story.
Okay, can I just give you a tiny thing to contemplate on, not to think about because I don't want the thought to run away, but when we contemplate, we see things more clearly for growth. And when we're in thought, we kind of suffer a lot more. So when you say the desire was there to watch something like a movie, so you have an expectation or a feeling like, oh, I'm going to cuddle up to my husband and we're going to have a nice little movie night and this kind of thing. Your perception of the movie is making the feelings manifest. So in
Mhm,
actual in actual reality, the balanced state being is able to sit there through a thriller and not have any emotion attached to it. And yet you finish watching the movie and you have many thoughts. We shouldn't have watched that. It's making me feel like this. I'm trying to be this way and it's not helping me be this way. These thoughts are suffering. You should be able to watch the movie with no attachment, no emotion, no continued thought patterns. But when we say should, this is for your development. You're not balanced in this state. You're already in thought. You're not in the moment. You're not seeing it for what it is. It's a play, it's an act. But you're feeling the energy in real time. Oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. You're having regret. You're having doubts. You're having, it's like self-sabotage. You wanted to watch that movie initially. You did it, and now you're suffering. So we have to put a pause here at some point to observe what's happening in the mind. The mind has a perception of that movie. It's not reality. It's not happening now, is it? This is a movie that's there for a reason. What is happening in your being is it suffering because of the visual images that you've given it. So the actual best thing to do is go and watch it again and be at peace with it. Don't run and hide from it, because the only way we're going to get balance from this teaching is to be okay with it. And every time you watch it, you'd be desensitized to it. Therefore, you won't have these feelings of, I'm trying to be positive and it's making me feel negative, because you've given your power to this
Mm.
external source. Your power is in you. You have the choice to feel that way. You are not the victim. You have the control over everything that happens after that movie is ended. And you've decided to run away with, oh, I don't like it. It's not for me. I can't do that again. I'm going to never do that again. This is not what I am. I am this. I am spiritual. It is everything that we create is a box, a prison. You're putting yourself into a prison by not watching it. So my advice, my experience, I would go and watch that film every night until I had no thought.
Wow, that's quite a challenge.
And the challenge is what?
A teaching,
And the teacher is what?
growth. Mhm.
Yeah, yes.
Pass the test.
Everything is divinely perfect at any given moment. So if I ask you that question again, is everything divinely perfect in any given moment?
I I I want to say yes, but I
Yeah.
cannot say I feel yes.
No, because you're still at this point of growth, and that's absolutely perfect for where you need to be at this given time. And you see, every time I say, like, so for me, when you can't say yes, it's perfect because you don't feel it. It doesn't come from a feeling, it comes from a knowing. And that even when I say to you saying that is divinely perfect at this moment in time.
Mm.
Now you're saying yes because that what you said was divinely perfect. Every single aspect of your journey and every single moment that passes is perfect for you because that's what you need to develop and grow along your experience here from birth to death in this physical aspect of you.
And
Now, once you understand that and you know that everything has been put in place for that, it all unfolds and unravels and goes into that filing cabinet of perfection is what you are.
mm,
So
thank
what what the what I've been running with my partner Josh is a 6 to 8 week transformation course, and we have been um, practicing holistic linkages with lots of beings that have had really good results. I know I spoke about this last time on our podcast that you can view some of the testimonials on some of our social media. And it's just a profound inner standing is that showing you the tools to use in these um, times when you get challenged. Every time you kind of do this, it rewrites the subconscious program that takes over. And then you get free from these things that trap us. And this autopilot becomes a lot better to
you.
live with than the suffering and pain that we feel. And it becomes back into that balanced state that we're striving, that our body's pushing us towards, always trying to get back there. Um, it's just pointing, simple pointings that we can bring to your everyday experience. And journaling does the same thing. Writing down your triggers and times of day, places that may trigger you, people that might say things. observing that and knowing that we're not going to be taken away with that and then bringing our attention back to that present moment is the toolkit that you need in every aspect of suffering. We got observation and then attention.
So is that the advice you would give to somebody that has the will to start on this journey, is to first maybe get like a notebook and first trying to observe and
I'll
make a
show you. I've got a I don't know if you- so I do like a sheet like this.
yeah, I
And
see.
all it has on there is like things that cause us a stress reaction or a trigger. And it would be like, so Monday, your triggers, it might be a place or music or a person or an environment, like, oh, I'm cold here, I don't like this. So the trigger that would give you a response, like a triggered response, a stress level of certain kind. And then what your reaction was it I don't know, an emotional reaction, or was it a physical reaction, like, you felt like revolted, or like something that happens within the body, the reaction, and then how to reduce that. So, some people use, like I've got here, breath work or meditation, or some people, have you heard of like tapping? If you get you could do certain tapping.
For the eye,
um
is it the eye movement type of things?
yeah, yeah, things like that, and all that is attention. So what happens is you have a thought arise and it gets linked to an emotional state and the stress levels elevate. And the quicker we can reduce that by doing something that brings our attention away from the mind and into the present moment, breathing, or like you said, your friend does the looks at the flowers, anything to bring the attention away from that reduces our stress levels. So it gets a lot faster. Every time we practice this, it gets
Mm,
a lot quicker. The result becomes a lot faster until it doesn't happen at all, because as soon as it arises, it goes, arise and go.
yeah.
Doesn't affect us in the longer term. And then we can really eliminate these things by, first of all, observation is the key, because unless we know it's happening, we don't know how to deal with it. So the observation of, oh, I've had a trigger from my mother or the weather or something that makes me feel like I'm suffering. So we can write it, we can journal it down to know what time of day it is and what's our stress level. And then how do we reduce that? Bringing our attention to our breathing. So it takes, first of all, it might take 5 minutes for you to get back to a state of like, I'm okay with this now. And then as we progress through that journey and practice, it becomes like it's an automatic thing. So a trigger will happen and you won't even notice that it's happened, because it will have no effect on your physical and your emotional state. It just is what it is. And then we drop all aspects of practice and all aspects of teaching, and we just are in the moment. But initially, we do need a practice, because that's how we get good at something. You know, you can't ever get from A to B without putting some kind of practice in. And that's how we take a journey. And that's why the journey is so precious, because each moment of that journey is a learning towards something that is your ultimate goal.
Is that chart that you show from the 6 week transformation program that you have?
So I do, if it is, I mean, obviously many beings have got different areas of growth that they would like to have guidance with. So this is just one of the areas that we provide help with, and it's kind of like stress reduction journaling, I guess, or journaling to find things that may arise when I'm not there. And we can talk about, on, because we have a call every once a week, and we would then go over the past week's findings or the journey that's happened. And then we go through aspects of what has happened with the maybe the mental issues that they're finding or the problems that are arising. And then we can just tackle them one by one. And then that will become a practice for the following week. So we decide on what we're going to do and how it would best fit their experiences and their journey. And then we work on progressing each week as we take them through the transformation. And this, I mean, you can just go and have a look at some of the aspects of help and healing that we've offered to many beings. And it's just changed their whole world. And I just really enjoy that aspect of being able to be part of someone else's journey to freedom, because that's ultimately what we all.
I've seen some videos on your Instagram regarding this transformation, 6-week transformation program, which, I mean, the ones I've seen, the person, which I do not know them, seem very transformed.
Yeah, and it only takes it's not about years and years of practice. It's just about, you know, making a start, like you said, observing what you would like to change. And if you would like to change, because the happiness is ultimately what we want to feel in life and the freedom from suffering. Freedom from suffering and joy and happiness are the main things that people come to us and say, that's what I'm looking for.
Yes,
And if you're open to the change and you would like that, then it's absolutely something that is a very quick thing to grasp if you're open to it.
yeah, I am surprised by the 6 week. Um,
Mm.
it just seems very short to me. Um, I'm
Yeah.
curious. I know everybody is different, but you did call it 6 week, I suppose, for a reason.
Yeah.
What type of changes do you see in an individual about halfway in the program? And let's say somebody that's very serious about change.
Yeah, so for sure there has to be a will there at first because it's ultimately you that's going to be making these changes. The guidance is there, but you have to apply the truth and the practice for it to change. And every being is such an individual journey. It's that motivation that you have to work towards your ultimate goal in freedom. I know that every journey takes time and energy, and the initial steps, the initial practices, the reason why we do 6 weeks is because you have so much to practice and so much to grow from that if you do longer, it just all becomes a little bit too much. So we usually have 6 weeks and then a break for 6 weeks, and then we come back and revisit what you've been practicing and how you've achieved these things that we've agreed. So it's nice to have a break for that time because there is a lot to, it's all you have to do ultimately is be you. But because we've had so many things inserted into our reality, the programs and the past predictions that we want to go back to, and the feelings that we've picked up a lot. And when we said letting go is just being your pure divine self, but that seems hard because we picked up all of these programs along the way. So we have to kind of unpick those aspects of the ego that it's built up over the time and then kind of go back to our essence, which doesn't sound hard, but when we have to tackle these teachings, they can be quite overwhelming at times. So having the 6 to 8 week as an initial phase is a nice time to get what you need and then practice for a while.
Okay, so it can come in cycles of 6 weeks.
Sure. Yeah, we do that with a lot of beings. So they do, some beings stay with us the whole time. They just want it weekly because they find that they get so much growth from it. But it's just such an individual journey, and you can decide how much or how little and how big the steps you would like to take. Sometimes we have like such incredible transformations because some people are all in. They're like, let's do it, let's just go for it, and that's great. But you have to be ready for the journey and you have to be willing to make the changes and apply the changes. So it happens differently at different times for everyone, but for the majority, 6 weeks is a great starting point to see what areas we can work on in the initial part.
I see. Now, can I ask you a personal question, and that may be the last question of this interview, which was, by the way, a great interview. And thank you
Mm,
again for taking so much time in explaining and providing all the details
for sure.
for my audience and your audience on this topic. And I thought this was added last minute. It's a personal question to you that I have.
Hmm.
How do we overcome doubt and fear when we still have a part of us that seems to be hanging on strong to, the personality?
Yeah, so wherever fear and doubt arise, it's always coming from a space of inauthenticity. Because when we're our authentic self and we communicate and we feel free, this is our authentic self. When we have doubts, worries, fears, these come from programs that have been picked up along the way. And then the mind will say, remember last time when you tried to do that? It was scary or it was difficult or hard or, you know, you can't achieve that. All of this energy will be reflected within your experience. So, what we ultimately need to know, the knowing that we need to adopt here in this part of our being is that we are not the fear or the worry. It's not happening. It's a made up concept that actually, when we go and do that part of our practice, it's not as fearful as we expected it or anticipated it to be. It was enjoyable, So if we have a fear maybe of a certain, I don't know, like heights or, spiders or whatever is a made up concept of our upbringing, when fear comes in, we have huge amount of emotional content that comes with that. So, if you've ever, well, I know you've felt fear before and you feel that feeling, that anxiety and that worry, and you can have so many different experiences going on in the body when nothing's even happening. Like there's a spider there in the corner, but I'm fearful of spiders. I have so many different emotions happening and so many scenarios that are happening in my mind, and yet the spider's just there in the corner, not not doing anything. So it's a it's a concept that's made up within the programmable mind. So when we look at other beings' experiences and what they have in that moment and what's actually happening compared to what's made up, then we can deal with the aspect of, is it harmful? Are you okay? How are you suffering? So it's a very experiential part of our development and our growth that we can learn from. Do you have any experiences that you feel fearful from, or you worry, or you have doubts?
I think it's mostly on a health standpoint.
Mhm.
Um,
So what's happening with doubts and fears from that is bringing that experience to you for you to overcome. When we have a knowing that everything is how it is for a very divine reason, like we have that question come back again now, is that we're faced with things that happen for our growth. Once we are in control and we're in power of that feeling that comes with doubt and fear, once we no longer have that and we have empowerment and self knowing of the situation, everything is going to be perfect. All of that energy disappears. But we have to take those practices and we have to realize that, okay, so if it's in the mind, so you've got your health, which is beneficial when you have a whole food diet because you have no chemicals going in. So you know that this is okay because this is an experience that you've taken on the last few years. That's not an aspect for you, but the mind will still say, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing and is
yeah.
this right for me? And will I still be in this situation in years to come? And I would like this outcome in a year, but it's not happening because of something. All of these thoughts are creating your reality. So how do we now change it? So like we said, this is a teacher for you, so let's embrace it. No longer be fearful of it because we need to use that change to create something new, to rewrite a pattern or a program that's happened or happening in the past. So now, every time that that comes up for you, so maybe in an hour's time, something will happen and it'll trigger a response in the mind, and the thought will come in that, oh, is this going to impact my health? So now we know that making a decision to not run away with that thought and bring our attention to the moment. Am I healthy? Yes. There's no other thought that needs to come into that energy field at that time to make us feel down. But what's happening is your past program is in that environment of, oh, I'm not sure. It's a very unsure space to be. Be at peace with the unsurety. No one knows what's going to happen in the future. We just don't know what's going to happen in that next moment. Anything, multiple possibilities, infinite possibilities. We can't control what's going to happen in the future, but we can give power to the energy that we have in that moment. That's all we have is this very moment. All we have. We can't bring up the past. We can't bring forward the future. It is this moment. That's the power. This is the power. And you're the creator, not the thoughts. The thoughts, if they are the creator, they create suffering. But it's what you decide to do in that moment with that thought. Are you going to continue to let it have an effect on your reality? Or are we going to start putting in practices to observe when that thought comes in of doubt or that thought comes in of fear? Are we going to continue this pattern? Or are we going to put in a practice now to say, okay, this is where it ends. My attention is here, breath or flowers or men or the sun, just whatever works for you in that moment of attention. And it will have to be a conscious effort initially. Conscious practice creates autopilot responses in the future, but initially we have to give it time and we have to give it some energy. if that's what we would like to achieve. And is that something you can apply practically daily whenever these thoughts come up? And if this is the freedom that you would like?
Yes. I mean, in my case, they appeared to me as such I don't even want to label them, but it's like this mountain.
Yeah, of course, because it's like you're looking at the end goal. But if you do it moment by moment, nothing's happening. Like at the moment, you're seeing it as a huge mountain to climb because your perception in your mind is making it that way.
Right, and it's
But
really good at it. That's the
right,
no,
okay, because it's learned that behavior. But how do we learn a new behavior? You've practiced that for however many years you've been practicing it, 20 odd years. You've practiced that for such a long time, such a long time. And now you're looking at it as a mountain, and yet there's nothing happening here in this moment. But you're saying, oh, it's a big mountain to climb. So you're already putting a barrier in place, a prison. So your perception is at the moment a prison, holding you in a prison cell for what your belief is, your fear, your worry, your doubt. But the way that we change this is the attention that you give it. It's not a mountain because you're not climbing a mountain. You're sat here with me. We're having a lovely conversation, and I'm grateful for the energy that you have and we're sharing. That's all we need to do. And your attention straight away. And then as soon as I stop saying that, your attention goes back on the mountain you've got to climb. So again, do it again. Okay, I'm grateful that now I get to sit here, my breath. I can feel my breath. I can see my hands. I can feel what I'm touching my pen. I can see the screen, the lights. I can feel the energy. Okay, and then when that stops and the mind says it again, oh, but what about that mountain we got to climb for our health? And you go, okay, this drink I'm having, oh, it's so refreshing. Look at the water and and you every time, and initially, like I said back at the start, the exhaustion you'll find from the mind will constantly be saying something. But every day and every moment that passes that you practice it will become easier and easier. And then within 2 to 3 weeks, 6 weeks, all of that mind chatter fades away because you've put in a practice and you've got from A to B. And now suddenly the clarity comes. Oh my gosh, I feel freedom because I'm not constantly in thought. So I'm not suffering anymore. And then you can take on new, bigger challenges like things that you find more difficult. Is about tackling the ones that you find on a moment to moment basis and knowing that everything is perfect in every divine given moment. I keep saying that to you, programming you subliminally.
should be on the
But
on the radio, a radio that just repeats that.
yeah, the media control, but it does come back to that ultimate question. And, every experience, even that, the fact that you told me that you feel like you have a mountain to climb, can you see that that is the barrier that's blocking you from freedom and that you're not tackling a mountain, you're not climbing mountain. You're sat here with no apparent health issues because in this moment nothing is happening. And yet, what the mind is telling you on times when it's not present is that there's something wrong.
Right.
But we've got to now reprogram that from there's something wrong to everything is perfect and divine at every given moment because it is. And if we have to tackle something that's challenging in that moment, then that moment is where we deal with it, not in the future and not in the past. When it arises, that's when we know what to do because we have knowing that everything is divine. So the future can hold a mountain if it wants. It can hold whatever it wants, but we're not living there. We're here. And this is the key to observation, is that nothing is happening. Everything just is here and now. And the way, it's not to say that we drop manifestations and intentions and goals and aspirations, because that's fun, that's enjoyment, that's experience. But it means to say that we're not attached to the outcome. Is that if the journey takes us on a huge detour and we've got to go the other way, great, that's where we're going. We're heading back this way. We're not going this way anymore. And that's absolutely fine also, is that, it's never going to be like this. Do you see that one where life is not like this, it's like this? And it is that, but that's the joy of it. That's the experience that we're losing because we're in thought.
Mhm.
So we don't want to lose that excitement, that joy.
I do really like your comment on how it was your experience. Or maybe there's probably more to it, but how you said that for you, the moment you decided, I think you said decided to see every day's challenges as your opportunity to, uh, was it enjoy or take it as a challenge to overcome?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm actually not restating it very well. But I do really like to tomorrow wake up and say, okay, I'm not gonna look at my life as if everything is happening to me and I have it's like for me, but just to go and like, okay, throw it at me and let's see how I overcome this, right?
What do they say? Bring it on, bring it on.
Right, yeah, bring it on.
But when we also say tomorrow I'm going to wake up, it's like now. Everyone's like, I'm going to start on Monday. I'm going to start here. I'm going to do it after Christmas. The moment is now. Every moment you've got is a decision that you can suffer or you can be free. And I chose freedom. And again, I reiterate, I am not perfect. My mind still does trick and has small traps, but I'm able to identify them very quickly now because I've practiced. It's not like I decided one day, right, I'm not going to live in thought anymore and be suffering. I had to practice and I've had to go through that stage of, you know, tiresome practice over and over again, but I wanted it. I wanted to feel that freedom. So I made the changes and put in the steps. And it's the same as anything. If you want to be good at anything or you want to have a goal to do something, you have to put in some practice to make sure that you get there. If you want to learn anything in college or university, if you want to be a professor at anything, if you want to drive, if you want to, learn a computer, you have to take steps to do that. You can't just do it overnight. It's a very difficult thing. You know, Beings learn at different paces. It's always a journey. Enjoy the journey. The experience is where it's at. Like I said, it's not birth and death, it's life. And that moment is the gift, that present. When we say the present, it is the gift, it's our gift that we're given, along with all of these experiences that we can do: touch, hear, see, taste, feel that connection, that communication that we can have with one another is sacred. I'm grateful for that. And let's, try not to live in suffering where the ego likes to control the environment. Let's be authentic and let's be open with that heart space. And that's where our essence lies, right there in that center. And that's all we speak about over these podcasts, is comes back once again to that ultimate balanced state of being.
Yeah, well, I think that is a great wrapping up on everything we touched on. I think, Michelle, we are getting to the end of the topic. I do not have any more questions for you. I wish I had more, but I feel like already we've covered a lot. I hope it is
Yeah.
very helpful to everybody that is listening. And please let me know, is there any last point you think I haven't covered that you would like to mention?
Well, I think we've covered everything that, the tools are so useful. The attention tool, the observation and attention are the two main tools in the mind. Um, conquering those two parts with practice is the main thing that I would like you to take from this podcast today. And I find, in my experience, not doesn't work for everyone, but writing a note or a journal or, the sheet that I have here with the triggers, it helps you to observe and to hold them accountable for what they really are, and it's just a thought. The trigger that happens and you write it down and you look at it and it's like, wow, I really got triggered by a place or a temperature or a sound, and it brings it to life almost, and that helped me a lot in my journey to observation, is that the written word, observing and stepping back from that, and then not letting the thought continue and shifting the attention. And those are the main tools that I'd like you to take away from today's podcast, and put them into practical application. Like we say, truth with application, apply it in your daily life. And then, yeah, enjoy the journey and the experience.
So yes, observation and attention and a notebook.
Everyone loves a good note. I do.
Yes,
But
I already like that.
yes. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing energy with you again, sister. So
Oh,
I
the
really do.
pleasure is all mine. The pleasure all
Yeah.
mine. Sorry to interrupt. I didn't want to make sure the pleasure was all mine. I really do appreciate all the time you take to really give your best to everyone listening and offering the best tools available to us right now, because sometimes, and it is because it's their journey, but it takes a lot of kind of like, oh,
Mm.
this way, oh, you need to go back in and again. But I think what is it is, I relate because I feel like it's where I am at this point to really work on that observing, making a note, and then deciding on how I want to
Mm.
react. Um, so thank you very much, Michelle. I really appreciate talking on this topic. It is a topic that was fairly new to me, but definitely not new to you. And I really appreciate all the knowledge that you bring on this channel. So thank you very much.
Grateful for you as well. So, like I said, any questions that arise or anything that comes up in the meantime, you can always pop the questions in the comments below and I'll keep checking them out. And also, I will also give you the contact details that you can pop into the description as well if anyone would like to contact me via email or through the social media. And yeah, I can help you with any questions or any information that you might need on the topic. And I'm happy to help as always.
Yes, absolutely. I meant to mention it. Thank you for catching that. All the contact details will be put in the description below, whether it is posted on YouTube, Instagram, or whichever channel, it will all be listed. So thank you for that. All right, Michelle. Well, thank you very much again, and have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.